Today's video is a recipe for a pumpkin hummus. I know a lot of you guys love hummus. Hummus is a favorite for a whole bunch of people, but we thought we'd give it a seasonal twist by using pumpkin. So this is a fast and seasonal recipe that is so good. It's a healthy snack, it's easy to take places, and it is going to be a big hit at your next party. So let's go look at the ingredients. You're going to need orange, you're going to need zest and part of the juice of it. You're going to need a little bit of olive oil, some fresh ginger, fresh nutmeg, black sesame seeds, a can of chickpeas, and pumpkin puree. We pressure cooked our own pumpkins and scooped out the innards to get this, but you can easily buy a can of it and do it much, much faster and in a much less scary way because we were terrified when we were using the pressure cooker. The first thing you're going to want to do is zest some of your orange off before you slice it for juicing. This makes it a little bit easier to pull the flesh off of the pith, which is that white part, but we're going to garnish at the end of this with a little bit of zest on top. So we're just going to pull it aside before we forget and before it's so hard to get off of the orange. So once you have your zest taken off, you're going to cut your orange in half and get some fresh juice out of it. We are going to use a few tablespoons of this to put in the food processor. So as you're doing all of these ingredients, you can put them in a bowl and add them to the food processor later, but what's one more dish? I mean, I like to just put it all in the food processor at once. So I use a Reamer. There are lots of different ways to use this for citrus and lemons and things like that. Luckily, oranges don't have the seeds, at least this kind didn't. So I'm just gonna put it straight in the container, just about 3 tablespoons. You don't have to be super accurate. You're also going to want to go ahead and take your fresh ginger. I've always seen this trick. People say to use a spoon to peel the flesh off of the ginger. I had honestly never really tried it until now. So you just take the spoon and pull it against the flesh and it should easily strip away. This way you are saving yourself a lot of fresh ginger and not taking it away with the skin. So you're just going to peel it back and expose only what you need. So you're going to need about an inch of fresh ginger. If you are not used to how spunky fresh ginger can be, I definitely recommend using a little bit less. We love fresh ginger in this house, so we have a high ginger tolerance. So you're just going to go ahead and throw that in your mixer as well. After you do your ginger and the orange, you're going to want to go ahead and add your chickpeas. Make sure you rinse them. A lot of people say that they like to do chickpeas that are from dried. I've never had luck with that, no matter how many times I try. So please don't feel like you have to use dried chickpeas and cook them. These are totally from a can. Just rinse them so you get some of those enzymes that make them hard to digest off of the beans before you mix them. Next, you will want to put in your pumpkin puree. This is from the pumpkin that I pressure cooked earlier. You can add as much or as little pumpkin as you want. If you're really unsure how you're going to like pumpkin that's not in a pie, I suggest adding less and then working your way up to more. We're gonna add about a cup of pumpkin to ours because that's about what we got off of the stuff we cooked. We didn't want to have any extra, so we went ahead and did a cup of flesh there. The last thing you're gonna want to add is a little bit of olive oil. Start slow and add more as you go. I'm gonna add just a couple of tablespoons and see how it purees. I want a nice dippable texture, but I don't want it to be overly liquidy. So we're gonna start there and see how it looks. So after it seems to be processing, I like to go in with a spatula and just scrape down the sides, kind of go to the bottom of the bin and see if there are any chunks of anything, because the worst thing you can do is get a chunk of a whatever surprise, especially a big thing of ginger when you're dipping it in. So once I feel like I have a texture that is dippable, a little bit thick, kind of what I'm going for, I'm going to go ahead and just pull it out and put it in a bowl. And P.S. these are my absolute favorite spatulas, the ones that are continuously molded from a single piece of rubber or silicone or whatever, because none of the food particles get trapped like between the head and the handle of the spatula. So once you've taken it out of the container, now it's time to do all the toppings. We're going to put the orange zest on that we reserved earlier. I love adding the zest on top. I think it adds a lot of aromatics for when you kind of take a dip in. It really hits you with that bright citrus note. We're also going to add some fresh nutmeg. A little goes a long way, make sure you don't overdo it. And lastly, the black sesame seeds. The black sesame seeds are so cool. They add a really big visual punch to the top of hummus, especially pumpkin hummus for Halloween. What I also love about this is traditional hummus is usually made with tahini. Tahini comes from sesame seeds, or it's made from sesame seeds, and I'm honestly not a fan of it. So I was more than happy to skip it in this recipe and just put the sesame seeds on top. And one last thing before we do the taste test, I also like to add a little bit of sea salt. Sea salt is amazing on everything. I feel like it really just rounds everything out nicely. It adds a nice savory note. You can use whatever kind of salt you want. It doesn't have to be sea salt, but sea salt is my favorite. So let's go ahead and take a taste test. I really like the way the pumpkin rounded this out. A lot of traditional hummuses to me, sometimes they're really dense. You can't eat a lot of them without getting really tired of how just dense they are. That's the best way I can describe it. But the hummus, or the pumpkin in the hummus really lightens it up. It adds a lot of air. The great thing about pumpkin too is that it has vitamin A, vitamin C, and a ton of fiber. And as anyone knows who I have fed, I love to feed you guys fiber. Fiber is great for keeping you full, for regulating digestion, but it is just so good the way it works into the hummus without detracting from what is so good about it. This would be amazing on a piece of whole wheat bread for breakfast or with vegetable dippers like I have here. I'm just having some green pepper, but you could do broccoli or whatever strikes your fancy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Let me know in the comment section what your favorite hummus hacks are, or what you would serve with this pumpkin hummus. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I will see you guys next time.